Today is May. You wouldn't think it though, because it's freezing out here. I stayed local this morning because I just got a late start and stayed local this morning. Although I had planned to go to Vermont, but it didn't work out that way. So we are in the local area, local vigilance area today, looking around. Haven't been in this area this time of year in a while, admittedly. So number one, I will need to be bear aware because there are a fair amount of black bears in the area. As I listen to a woodpecker in the distance, and we'll see what we find. It's a little buggy, but it's also chilly today. I don't even think it's 60 degrees, which is for May kind of strange. But anyway, New England being the little schizophrenic climate that it is, that's going to be what it is, and we're going to see what we find. So let's go and see what we do find and come on along. Today's kind of a day that I didn't really have go as planned, so it's going to take the form it does. Anyway, let's see what we find, and it'll be what it is. We're heading to the high meadow, an area where, I forget how many years ago it was, I became personally aware of the presence of mountain lions in Connecticut because there was one up here. Not that I expect to see it today. It ran off when I encountered it the last time, but I'm just surprised at how actually chilly it is. It's the middle of May, and it's with the wind and everything, it's actually kind of nippy. In fact, for my own curiosity, bear with me a sec. Yeah, it's like 52 degrees. Well, it is literally only 52 degrees right now. So, what happened to springtime? Everything's all green and whatnot, but it's cold. Not like debilitatingly cold, but chilly. I'm also going to avoid that wet rock. I literally just slipped on the other one. So, kind of have an open-ended agenda today, like I usually do. And head up here. I haven't been up here in a while. Get the look of the place. Kind of a thin little, I don't know, I guess you'd call this a side trail. And see what's what up here. And kind of behind here. Don't really have a reason for not going to Vermont today, other than I just got a late start. 2-hour ride up, 2-hour ride back. So it's put a little effort into that. But as far as the usual opening segment where what's going on, we again have the Cobble Mountain Critter Festival thingy next month on the 7th. I still plan to try to make it to that. Be sociable once in a blue moon. Apparently, the Ohio Bigfoot Conference went on by without my even noticing. Keep thinking I hear something. Or imagination. But this just to show you how in tune I am not with the conference thing. Let's see what's up here. Yeah, so a few years back, I walked up. Mountain lion right there had just taken down a deer and ran off somewhere. I want to say it was like 2016. And I had what was left of the deer. Well, it was a fresh deer carcass, but I found. I'm gonna walk over the spot real quick. And Kitty ran off, but the deer was lying there with his throat gutted, and left me with little doubt as to what the hell I saw. It was like right in there. You can see like the whitish thing of a log. It was about that far in. But yeah, it was an eye-opening moment. I had heard from local hunters for years that there was a big kitty in the neighborhood, and I don't mean bobcat. I had never seen one, but for anyone who wants to poo-poo my claim, one, I have education in forestry. I know what looks like what. And I have yet to see a bobcat that is large dog size with a tail that is long and ends in a black dot. Tan on the top, white on the bottom, and a black dot on the end. That is not a bobcat. That is a cougar. And not the scary old type that tries to hit on young guys. Yes, I went there. Other than that, let's just kind of focus on what's going on in here. Because like I said, I haven't been in here in a while. Kind of keep alert, because it seems like every time I've been in here in recent years and I get the daydreaming, I look up and there's a bear looking at me. Luckily never with aggressive encounters, but I don't remember it being that soggy back here either. But then I'm normally in here in colder months. Not that the weather is not trying to make up for that today. So, and the first thing I did today, based on recent lessons learned, is format the SD card on the camera so it doesn't get all full on me, because I've done that 3 times in the last month, to my irritation when I'm in the middle of a sentence and it goes beep and it's full. That, I think my last video has a sudden cut from the fisheye lens like this one has to a body cam. There's a whole lot of freaking dookie of something. I'm looking for tracks, but in this leaf litter, that's not the easiest thing. Excuse me. So, this does look different in the warmer months too, because it's more. Nice thing about the wind and the chill is that it seems to be keeping the deer kids at bay. Which, for those that are unaware, is an invasive insect from China that looks like a weird cross between a crab spider and a tick with wings. And they suck blood just like them, so it's just as good that we don't. I did put on bug spray and all that, all the normal precautions, but there are sections of this body of woods where they are prevalent and kind of self-insistent. And so I looked for, we found a poo sample. It's an indent of some kind, but no real definition. This may just end up being a woods wander today, but that's all right. Nope, there's your culprit. I was thinking moose, but I didn't see tracks. Now I do. For comparison. And just so we're all aware, yes, as you just saw, Connecticut has a small population of moose, if you were ever in doubt. An increasing population in bears, and the odd And the odd mountain lion. Mountain lion, yeah. Because I suddenly am from Fargo. Now we're kind of hitting a point where it's sort of a branching off trail into scrub brush, into forest, mainly due to not so distant past logging. Be interesting to see how many bite. I notice there are black flies up here. We never used to have black flies, but with all the regional uncertainty of weather and all that and such, the border. That's why I laugh when you have like a Forestry Service thing where you have a range poster for like a given animal. Like that's a static line that they're never going to cross over. That's a load of hooey. Because if you look like at one from the 80s, black bears are not south of New Hampshire, and yet New Jersey is infested with them. So that doesn't always add up that way. Well, we'll go in here a ways and see what we find, and then we'll... I don't want to go deep under the trees with the wind, because this place is known for widowmakers and wind. Which is kind of why I'm not just stopping, because it's a little easier to not die if you're a moving target. But like stuff that's all come out to a clearing. It's kind of hard to see the evidence of the logging because when you get overgrown like this. But there's these little logging trails in here that go a ways, and once they grow back over, they're a way to get in a little deeper, kind of an ingress. So let's go in here for a while. Like I said, I haven't been down this way in a long time, so let's just kind of pop through and see what we find. You got to make a habit of patrolling old stomping grounds now and again to keep like the mud slippery trap right there into a big pile of moose shit. Sweet. Not. Okay. Wonder if the old camp somebody had down here is still here. So now that I'm here in this, I'm going to take a look around and take a short segment break. I'll be back in a moment. On the kind of like parallel trail along the top backside of the quote-unquote high meadow. Yeah, here's some evidence of logging. You can't really tell because it's all overgrown, but if you come here in the fall, it looks a lot more logged. You get all this undergrowth, whatnot. And how easily traversable is this? Tricky, but not insurmountable, perhaps. You won't get dinged up too bad if you're careful. Other nice thing about the wind and the cool, allergens seem to be a little bit more tame today. Earlier in the week, it was relief because of rain. It's rained all week. But I keep looking around because if you look at the greenery, what you're looking out for is when you have that big, slowly moving black blob in the middle. Because despite their size, bears at that pace are really not that loud. Especially if they're just intent on foraging on the forest floor. And with wind like this and the fact I'm wearing sunscreen and stuff, any bear in the neighborhood, given their level of smell acuity, they're going to know I'm here. So it's a matter of whether they care, they're concerned or not. And that depends on the individual bear. Some want nothing to do with people. Some get curious. Others, they know you're there and they don't give a rat's patoot. They just literally have had the majority of the bear encounters, and this is hypothetical because we have a visual plane of a field of view over here. You have all that. If you go look out to where the nearest significant tree is, something at that distance, and a bear pops out and looks over at you, and he's heading that direction, he's going to stop. He's going to notice you're there. You stop and look at him. He's going to keep going that way. Unlike some people think he's going to ravenously charge you and think you're dinner. No. They really just, on average, unless they rapidly smell food on you, they're not going to care that you're there beyond the point. And they're really just not that aggressive if you leave them alone. I used to be more nervous or cautious of running into bears, but what I've learned is it's more the matter you just respect their space. Here's that fucking camp, or is this a new one? Right there, the fire pit. And incidentally, it is illegal, I believe, to camp in here. But clearly somebody was. Little mountain flowers, I don't know what those are, but I'm going to wander into the scrub a little bit because you got a little bit of like a trail, sort of, if your eyes pick up on the pattern. But this is also the kind of like low-hanging stuff you're going to run into a bear face-to-face in. For those wondering, yeah, I have. It's disconcerting. He ran at the time, which I was thankful for, but don't laugh. I'm only going to go in so far because this time of year, they're up, they're around, and there's a decent amount of them in this neighborhood, so I tend to be a little bit more judicious in how deep off-grid I go in here, in case anyone was curious. We're going to start moving back the way we came. Again, even though the camera's not doing it, I'm kind of going side by side with my eyes and my peripheral vision, just keeping an eye out. For those that are wondering, since we're on the kind of like on the bear aware topic, have I ever had an aggressive encounter with a bear? Honestly, no, not really. But I think a lot of the reason for that is I've gone out of my way to not do anything aggressively to frighten or spook the bear. And I've always tried to go out of my way to give them an avenue of retreat or not block their way through if they were heading in a given direction, because if you do that, you're increasing the odds they're going to feel threat. What you don't seem to understand is 99 out of 100 bears, when they get into an aggressive encounter with people, it's not because they're hungry or predatory. It's because they are fearful and threatened and react on that level. Which is not to say predation doesn't happen, but it actually is really, really rare in black bears. However, they also tell you that once they commit to wanting to have you for dinner, they don't back off, so you really are going to have to fight for your life. And towards that, I carry bear mace, which hopefully on a day like this you don't have to use, because you're on the... If you get a snort of it yourself, you're no better than Smokey is. And you're both wandering off, pissed at me for basically causing them a lot of spicy boogers. They can't breathe worth a damn, and Their eyes are watering, they're hacking, so am I, and nobody wins in an exchange like that. Okay, so what I didn't bring, although technically I guess I'd be legal, is my 38. Concealed carry is legal in Connecticut, provided you have the permits. Ow! That hurt. I was talking before about being careful and not dinging yourself up. Kind of like what I just did. That hurt. Glancing blow, but like right on the side of my knee. That hurts. Be funny to see what kind of bruise I have from that when I get home. Of course, it's not really it's not a full hike or wood scramble if you don't come back with at least a scratch or two, because you're kind of dogging it. That's just kind of the understanding you come to have. Anyway, I am going to look around the meadow a little bit more, take a segment break and see where we are, where this weather is. Because if you look at the weather, it was sunny when I came in. Now it's cloudy, mountain weather being what it is. Or in Connecticut's case, let's be honest, foothill weather being what it is. We are like in the foothills to the foothills of the Berkshires. What I was getting at with the concealed carry commentary is, here I would be legal. If you wander too far that way, you're in Massachusetts. And the lovely thing about Connecticut and concealed carry is none of the states that are immediately contiguous to the state line are reciprocal. So if you were to be found with your gun there, you're not legal. And Massachusetts and Rhode Island in particular are very blue state pissy about guns and such. So you kind of have to be certain you know what you're doing. Again, segment break. We're going to make our way back that way and see what we see. And we're going to pay a little bit more attention to like animal sign and the like. So I need to put the camera away for a few minutes. I'll be back though. Meadow, and I'm watching the weather. Something is kind of rolling in, I think. This is normally where I would launch the drone to get a picture of the bigger picture, so to speak. But with the wind being as high as it is lately, that makes drone flights limited to lower altitudes and defeats the scenery or the mapping factor that I would use, because normally I'll take it up like 300 feet and have a look around if I'm in a newish area and want to get a lay of the land. Some people have poo-pooed the use of drones in this kind of an endeavor, and if you think that way, I'm thinking you're not really approaching it the same way I would. If you're thinking you're going to fly it through this kind of vegetation and find something in there, that's a pipe dream, because your piloting skills aren't that, even in thinner stuff like this, your piloting skills aren't that good. You can just simply walk over there and look too. You want to get up over and do a look like over that way. If you can't see through here and you don't know the way ahead, you pop the drone up and have a look. And that gives you an idea of what you're doing. I've done that more than once. But I'm just watching this weather. It's, with the sun not coming back out, it is like we're probably hanging at like 50 degrees today, which isn't freezing, but it is a wee bit chillier than I had expected. I'm done harping on that though. So we're going to go back down the way we came, and we're going to see what else is looking interesting here today. So that's our next move. So I'm going to segment break, cover down there because there's some slippery spots. I'd rather pay attention and not wipe out, get hurt, or end up with just wet ass. Either way, we'll be back again in a bit. You know the drill. Okay, new neighborhood. We are not far from where we were, but you can obviously see the terrain's a little bit different. And I'm wondering how much of that's going to be all swampy like that. That may impede my ability to explore. There's a common eastern newt, one of the more common salamanders in the neighborhood. When things are moist all the way through like October, they're rather common, hence the name common eastern newt. So it is quiet in here today as far as quote unquote presence or sign. And from experience, one of the things they can do to tell that is if you just stop and listen for a minute. Of course, now it's going to be quiet. The presence of songbirds and the like. When something is in the neighborhood, another newt, and it is not natural to the neighborhood, like not even like people or something, it tends to get just dead quiet. And if you can listen off in the distance, birds and signs of things like that. But once in a blue moon, you'll be out far enough and you just stop and listen, and nothing is making a sound. That is when you tend to need to want to perk up and listen a little bit more intently, because you might just not be alone out there in that moment. Just not wanting to get into like Rocky Scramble stuff, which in Connecticut forest like this, that's a little easier said than done, because the nature of the soil and such is rather rocky in some places. A lot of places. But you got bugs. In September, this place would be like literally, you stop like this, and even if you're wearing head to toe DEET, the mosquitoes will find you in force. And as opposed to black flies, where black flies are not like mosquitoes. Mosquitoes respect the DEET. Black flies, on the other hand, are devil's toe jam, and they just don't. They just don't care. They will go under a part of your sleeve like that, get under there, and they will camp there for an hour. And you'll get back home and you'll notice like 6 or 7 welts where they just had a little hootenanny in there sucking your blood. And the next day, the itch on that is unbearable. Little stick structure for people that are into that kind of thing. Again, I'm rather skeptical of 99% of them, but it is what it is. So with it being as quiet as it is today, I'm going to kind of take the rest of the time here to listen in and look for a sign of anything. And this is where I'm going to do the whole, looks like the sun might be trying to come back out again. Fickle mountain weather. This is where we're going to do the like, subscribe, leave comments, and all that. And next week, and starting there going forward, we are going to get back into Vermont. I just didn't get there today, but there is an area that I do want to check out. It would be a new area, so we'd be going in there for the first time. Those are always fun. I can find the way back from there, because you just got to follow that one beaver stream. There's like 2 conjoined beaver ponds that will get you back to the main trail to get out of there. Just thinking aloud. Anyway, until next time, do all that YouTuber stuff, and we will be back the next time. Bye.